I think we're going to get started here. Thank you again. Thank you to Joe and Anthony and our teachers who were part of the tour. My name is Jack Balderman. I'm very proud to be the superintendent of CUSD 201. I'm starting my 13th year in the school district. I was 11 years principal. I love this community and our kids and what we've built together and what we can continue to build together. I'm excited about the possibilities. I'm also concerned about some of the things that we have to address. So the presentation, as I said, will be much less than the question and answer period, but there are some things we'd like to put out there. So if you could hold your questions or think of them or write them down, but we will take all questions afterwards and be as straightforward as possible. And people who know me, like I said, I'm not new in the community. I am a person who very much values citizenship and getting involved and being as straightforward as possible with people because a lot's at stake. It's the students that we love and the community we love. So I want to begin by just sharing some information. As I said, we spent, I think, over an hour in the Q&A session afterwards at our last meeting, and the presentation's about 20 minutes. Like I said, somebody can throw something at me at the 20-minute mark and I'll close it off. So, at the crossroads is the idea here. We have seen our district over time, because of everybody's hard work and citizenship and cohesiveness, build what is an excellent district, on the verge of becoming one of the premier districts in the state and nation. Now, everybody's proud of their school district, right? And they're going to talk about excellence. We actually have the evidence to support the idea that we're not only one of the most improved in the state and nation, but we are on the verge of becoming one of the best school districts you can find anywhere. That's something to be proud of. Most importantly, because it serves our kids and our young people, and they're our future. But there's also this commitment to the taxpayers that are giving their hard-earned money to build a school district, and they deserve excellence. So there's value for the taxpayers, for the community, and for our students. All of those things come together. But we're at a crossroads because if we don't make an important decision here, in my opinion, we can go in another direction, but it will not be able to sustain some of this excellence that we have built and achieved, quite frankly. So we have to make a decision. That decision is yours. I cannot tell you how to vote, but I can present information about where I believe we are and what we need to do and why we came to this conclusion. And we have our construction managers here, architect, the community engagement consultant is here to also answer questions if needed. So thank you. But we are at that crossroads between being a district that is on the move, heading towards being one of the premier districts in the country, or we can take a step backwards. That is up to the community. So, start with academic excellence. There's a lot of stats. We've won almost every award you can imagine. But the most important stat, and what we're really talking about here, is trust. At the high school, the University of Chicago and the Illinois State Board of Education administer an anonymous survey to our parents, our teachers, and our students. And one of the questions that's on that survey is, do you trust your teachers? Do you feel cared for? Do you feel respected? Now, the thing that I want you to notice here with this data, because I'm immersed in this every day, but here's the score, 99, 99, 99, 99. There is no 100. This is the best score in the state of Illinois, given anonymously to teenagers, mind you, 98% of them, okay? What do they say about the schools that we've built, that you have built with us? That they have the highest student-to-trust ratio in the state of Illinois. Now, if you can't get excited about that, what could we get excited about? Nothing is more important than student-to-teacher trust. All the academic accolades and awards and ratings are beautiful, but it begins with students knowing they're cared for. And that's the district that we have built together. It is a special and incredible thing. And I'm so proud of our community because it is a community effort. It is with the support of the taxpayers, the businesses, the community, the parents, our amazing admin and teachers, support staff, and of course our incredible students. So That's just one piece of data, but to me, it's the most important. And it speaks to, if you're going to hand over money to the district, I would want to know that the district knows what the heck they're doing. If this is an indication to you, not top 1%, number one in the state of Illinois, and we are extremely proud of that. You have this handout, if you would please reference it for a moment. It's on the third page of the handout that starts with the Chicago Magazine. I was told I had to explain this graph. So in 2018, as an example, the state of Illinois started ranking every public school in Illinois. Okay, we didn't ask for that. And the criteria they use is varied. Graduation rates, test scores, ninth graders on track, science proficiency, literacy, math. There's about 6 different indicators. Since they started in 2018, so they've been doing it for 6 years, the number 1 ranked school by the Illinois State Board of Education is Westmont High School. Now, I don't know about you, but we are a part of a championship team here. That is pretty incredible. There are schools that would kill for that. I tell you, they're working hard towards it. So once again, not number 1 just for a year, cumulatively since 2018 through 2024. So that's pretty incredible, and that's the Illinois State Board of Education. Now the thing we're excited about is that in the coming weeks, they're going to come out with new scores. And I can't wait for them, because Miller, Manning, and the junior high are going to have incredible achievement. There is no doubt in my mind. This is where we are headed as a district. This is what we have built together. Whether you're currently, undecided or maybe not in preference of saying yes in November, or whether you are, we all built that together, and it is incredible. So congratulations, you're part of the championship team. I was flying to Texas because my part-time job that I mainly do in the summer is I fly around to schools all over the country, and I consult and help them achieve some of the results that we achieve. And I was on my way to Texas to talk to 2,000 people about our school district and what we're achieving. I couldn't wait. But as I came through the airport, I noticed at the bookstore this Chicago Magazine article, and I saw it on the rack, and I thought, oh my God, the suburbs, the best places to live. See, and I know who we are here in Westmont. I've been here for a while, and I love this place. So when I saw that magazine, my first thought was, please tell me that Westmont is in there. Please, because I know what we have is special. Sure enough, and you have this in your hands, the front page, the best places to live. They only name where your young family can blossom. They only name 3 towns out of all the suburbs in Chicago. Think about that. This isn't a proud superintendent talking about this district. This is the #1 magazine in our region. And what did they say explicitly? It's a hidden gem, largely due to its highly rated schools. Now we know that there's a direct connection between the quality of a school district and property values. And I can promise you something. Often, when I speak to our students and I look them in the eye, I say, listen, everybody, you gotta work hard. You gotta work hard. You gotta give your best, and we will be here to support and love you. Because when we're here in this building, your families, your neighbors, the community, the businesses are out there working very hard, and they give a piece of their hard-earned money to make this possible for us. So we owe that to our community and to our taxpayers. I promise you, I say that all the time. Whether somebody is in first grade or a senior in high school, and they get it and they respond. And I see the way our kids work, and I see the way our teachers work, and our admin, and the greatness that we are on the verge of. It is beautiful. So it's not just me recognizing this. These are all the awards that is the envy of many school districts in the area. When I was at the Chamber of Commerce meeting today, we talked about with some real estate agents, the great schools ranking of 10 out of 10. This is just the start of it. We have accomplished academic excellence, but it's never given, never guaranteed. It's got to be a continuous improvement effort. And we've been able to do it because we have fair funding. That's in jeopardy because there are things in our district that are pulling at us that will require taking some of that annual budget and fixing things that should be fixed through a referendum. And if we cannot sustain that, we are putting our academic excellence in jeopardy. So, that's what we're talking about. Maintaining and building on this. And there's benefits for our young people, benefits for our community, benefits to the taxpayers. That's what we're about. Don't think we're not looking at all those things as we make these decisions. Some of you took a tour of this building. As I said, in the last 19 years, I have worked as a consultant in 49 states. Mississippi has not seen the wisdom of hiring me yet, okay? But I've been all over this country, hundreds and hundreds of different school districts. And I walk in and it's a representation, it's symbolic of a community's commitment to education and their young people. And it's thrilling at times to walk into these facilities and see really beautiful facilities. It sends a message to everybody. This is what we care about. Look at how we funded our schools. This is important. The buildings in this district, especially the elementary schools, are not in the top 3/4 of buildings that I've seen in this nation. They are in the bottom quartile. They do not match the excellence that we are pursuing and in part achieving. I don't have to say more than that because they've served us well. This building is 90 plus years old. It's at the replacement stage, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Miller is at 70 years old, and if I could be so blunt to say it, the original construction was not done with the idea that we're going to build someplace fantastic. It was a nice, decent school, and it's lasted 94 years. We think it's lived its life. You see the examples, the comparison and contrast between where we are now and where we could be in the future. And we're not talking about building a palace. That's not who we are. But do you want to build quality if it's going to last for 50 years? I think that's a smart thing to do. You're going to invest one time. We take that very seriously. We're not going to come back and do it again 10 or 20 years from now. It will have to last for decades. So the idea is you do it right from the outset. Not extravagant, that's not who we are. I know that. Nor do we need to do that. But quality. You don't want to make the most important decision in the district's history, recent history, on the cheap. We're too good for that. So you compare and contrast where we are currently and where we could be. There are serious repairs, from things like ADA, to be ADA compliant, to try to reduce the risk to the people who use these facilities, to maintenance things that are beyond just taking care of them, but are at the replacement stage. This is what the future could possibly look like. A pre-K through 5 building for our kids would be a place of pride that we would build together to continue the excellence, this journey that we're on together, doing something special. Not extravagant, but something quality for our community and our kids to walk in every day. Fiscal responsibility. I want to share a few slides here because I'm in my second year of superintendency in this district. And our first year, we were committed to making sure we had a balanced budget. This second year, we just approved the balanced budget last night. And going forward, we will continue to have balanced budgets. And for 20 years, this district has earned the highest rating, not from ourselves, but from the Illinois State Board of Education. For 20 years. If you look at the tax rates of school districts in our area, we're not at the top, we're not in the middle. We're in the lower half. These are facts that you can access. So we have been responsible. I'll tell you a story. We are constantly fighting for the taxpayers. This year when we did residency checks, we learned some people who did not live in our district, and we vigorously and very uncomfortably pursued that and asked the people in the district who didn't truly belong here to leave. In one instance, the Illinois State Board of Education, the Regional Office of Education, and our own attorney said, just enroll those kids, just enroll them. It's going to be just what you need to do. We said, no, it's not the right thing to do. We are protecting our taxpayers. And we held the line against the advice of our own attorneys. Trust me, we don't do that all the time, but in this case we did. Against the advice of our attorneys, against the Regional Office of Education, against the Illinois State Board of Education's advice, we held the line and we had these students no longer attend our district at a savings of about $350,000. So anybody says we're not fiscally responsible, you don't walk in our shoes every day. Look at the tax rate, look at the balanced budget, look at the awards that have been won over the years, and know that we value. I grew up, the six of us, when I was a kid in hometown Illinois, not too far from here, 1,100 square feet for the six of us. I was the first person from college to graduate from my family. I put myself through college as a dishwasher, as a custodian, working retail sales. I know the value of a dollar. I would not squander, nor would we as a board or administration or team. We take our responsibility very seriously. I live in a district, I pay taxes, I pay a lot more than the people in Westmont do, and don't get anywhere near the quality. And it irks me. Investments have to be sacred, and they are to us. Your hard work is sacred to us. So are the kids. So, for someone to challenge our fiscal responsibility, that's not a fair assessment. These are the facts that are available to everybody. People say, well, why can't you just use your budget? In Illinois, when the school district gets to the place where you have to do replacement or major renovation, the annual budget is not built for that. The annual budget is built to run the district, pay the salaries of the people, do some maintenance. But imagine if the budget could accommodate the cost of building a new building. There would be districts that would abuse the taxpayer monies and maybe put a disproportionate amount into other things and then not have the money to do that. That is why the system is set up that you have to ask the taxpayers for this kind of dollar amount. And we take it very seriously. But to those who would say, well, why haven't you been maintaining? We have been. We are at the replacement stage. And we have been fiscally responsible, but you can't take money from this bucket and put it into large capital renovations. It's just not built that way. So we have to come to the voters for approval, which is, once again, we can't do this on our own. It's a democracy, and we value the citizens, so we have to get support from our community. Now, there is a senior citizen exemption, because we know some of our fellow citizens are on fixed incomes, and we encourage people to take advantage of that, and we could even help you if you haven't applied. But we understand that some people are going through some tough financial times, but we're looking at ways to be able to mitigate some of that. The other thing I want to point out is we are not the first to ask for a referendum. We're not the second or the third. We're not in the middle of the pack. We're at the end of the pack. This is a fact that sometimes in the community, people have not been accurate about. We have not passed a referendum. We went for referendums. We attempted to do some things in the past, but we have not passed a referendum in this district in 50 years. That is a fact. So we're not the first to ask for funding, or the second or the third. We're near the end of the line. So I want to keep that in perspective. I'm going to have one of our leaders from our construction company who do this every day, and our experts explain in detail how we came to some of these numbers. Most importantly, the building of a new pre-K through 5.
Thank you, Jack. I'm Joe Papanicholas, Nicholas & Associates, construction manager. Public K-12, that's what we specialize in. I want to focus on the first number at the top there, $63,439,200, and where that comes from. We hold a lot of weight in recently opened bid openings. That's sort of our market check. We certainly have an idea of, when it comes to cost of construction, CM fee structure, AE fee, you add all those things up and you come up with an all-in value. Okay? It's very important to start out in a fair and reasonable manner with the idea of, as the design is progressing, the budget should be defined. Okay? Design hasn't commenced. We don't have a crystal ball to know exactly what it will be preparing, what obstacles we're going to face. Is the soil going to be suitable? What's the permitting going to be look like? What are the review comments that are going to be coming back? There's lots of TBDs that we need to make sure that we start out reasonably conservative with that idea of refining the budget as the design progresses. It's very, very important. As far as validation, we recently opened bids. In August this year, we opened up bids for 2 new schools in Joliet 86. Those came in just under $500 a square foot all in. Okay. Now, what's the difference? How are they comparable? Joliet schools, 300,000 square feet of new construction. Okay. Max economies of scale. There's not a playground component at those Joliet schools. We do have a playground provision in this number. Okay. Some other obstacles or some other differentials. The competitive bid nature on those. When you look at the variation from the low bidders to the second bidders, substantial differential, great competitive bidding. Okay. Do we expect the same results? Certainly. Okay. But we don't want to bank on that. We want to start out slightly conservative, not in the best case scenario. We'll be going the wrong way. Okay. So when you take all that into consideration and not having quite that economies of scale, again, Joliet was I'll call it a basic design. Okay. Again, you take all of those different factors into consideration. This is a reasonable spot. We're at $658 a square foot all in at this point. Okay. Besides those 2 new schools, other comparables in the public K-12 sector, they range anywhere from $600 a square foot up to $1,000 a square foot. So as Jack mentioned earlier, we're not building a Taj Mahal here, okay? And we're not building something that's not going to last the 50 years. We're in a good position.
Thank you so much.
And we hired a construction management firm that has deep experience in the K-12 environment. Same with our community consultant, same with our architects. They do this every day. We had our pick of many different partners, and we chose wisely. So we're grateful for that. And if you have questions later about details, we can have those answered too. These appear to be our 3 options. To continue to kick the can down the road, quite frankly, to apply some Band-Aids, to perhaps start digging more deeply out of emergency into some of our budget. But that would mean that we'd have to reduce some of our expenditures. Class sizes increase, reduction in service to our students. We promise a balanced budget, but we need to use that to continue on this journey of academic excellence. So the idea of not having any new funding would put what we've built together as a community in jeopardy. We don't think that's not an option. The second is a little more economically, reserved, which is to renovate. And I'm just going to say it as quickly as possible because I want to get to your questions. It would be very hard as somebody who's worked in education for 40 years and who has been a part of 2 other successful referendum efforts and traveled the country as an educational leader to put tens of millions of dollars into our 2 current buildings. That's not just my opinion, that's the opinion of our Board of Education. And we surveyed our community. Do we get to everybody? No, of course not. But we got to a very strong sample, and the preference was for building new instead of renovating the 2 existing buildings. It would seem like putting good money after bad, and 5 or 10 years from now, I think we'd regret it. We have people who are architects, not just our own, but others who are architects and community members who say, it makes no sense to put more money. We have citizens who say the same thing. That leads us to new construction. And it also consolidates, so we have 1 building instead of 3. There will be cost savings there. We're conservatively saying that it'll be $600,000 to $700,000 annually that we will save by consolidating 3 buildings. Plus the energy efficiencies, right? I mean, this HVAC system is in need of replacement at the tune of $8 to $10 million. We just did that at the junior high. $8 to $10 million for a new HVAC system just here at Manning. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, one of the bigger expenditures. It just didn't make sense to us when for somewhat more, we could build a building that would last for 50 years. So that's what we're talking about. That's how we reached the conclusion. That's why we're building new instead of renovating. We are trying in every way, I'm not going to read everything on the screen, but getting the best value for our taxpayers, for our citizens, for the people that we care about, who send us their kids and that we are in partnership with every day. So, we are putting a lot of quality time and effort we already have in trying to come to the right conclusion about every decision, including location. We have trying to select what's best for the community, the best investment, eminent domain. One of the options is that we could build or exercise eminent domain. We're trying to avoid that because there would be heartache for some of our fellow citizens. We're not saying that will not ultimately be a route that we take, but we're trying to pursue options that would not include that. We also are looking at displacement of students and disruption to education. And if you ever have lived, as I have, through a renovation project, the opportunity for teachers to teach at high quality levels and for students to learn at high quality levels is jeopardized when you're constructing around them. And we would most likely have to displace students for a period of time. We're trying to avoid that option. We're being creative. There are constraints. We have to build the building within the district, okay? We're not building like a moon shuttle or something, or a space station out there. We're confined to the boundaries of this district. So, and the other things that we are looking at is, and this is where there's decisions to be made, a central location, if at all possible, or one that will give us a continuous campus, if you will. So these are the considerations. I want to say, here's the legalese, that if we are in the middle or the very beginning stages of negotiating, as it says here, records relating to real estate purchase negotiations are exempt until those negotiations have been completed or otherwise terminated. So, we'll talk more about location in a moment, but this is what we're facing. So, location considerations. This is perhaps one of the most important slides. Right now, all parties that we're involved in some form of negotiation with have asked us to keep those negotiations confidential. That's extremely important. Here's my point. Failing to do so would put us in a position where we could harm the taxpayers and potentially cost the taxpayers a few $1 million, and also possibly lose a deal. So the law not only allows for those kinds of negotiations to happen in private, but it also would jeopardize the commitments that we've had with our people we're negotiating with, and with community leaders who are on the district side and trying to get the best deal for the community and the school district. So I would almost ask, if you were in my shoes and you knew that revealing everything or revealing what we know would lead to potentially losing millions of dollars for the taxpayers in the district and would betray the confidence of excellent leaders who are completely on our side, would you divulge all the information? I have a hard time thinking that's the reasonable way to go. That's where we're at. And when we shared this with our Chamber of Commerce this afternoon, including people who on a regular basis negotiate contracts, it made complete sense to them. These are fellow citizens, business leaders, community members. They said, of course you can't reveal that. Trust me. The minute that there is something eminent, we will share with everybody widely. And one of the things that we are also committed to is tentatively at October 15th, holding another community meeting and giving an update to the community and telling them what we can divulge, anything. With that being said, we're looking at South School because we currently own that property. The pro is that we own the property already. It's not big enough to do what we need to do. We would probably have to exercise eminent domain, and that's a downside to that project. The other thing is it's not centrally located. I'm not saying that's a deal killer, but it's just something to consider. Miller was the original idea, but that would lead to displacement of students and some disruption of education, most likely eminent domain that we're trying to avoid. But that is an option that we have explored. Manning is really not an option because there are so many students who are educated here that we cannot tear down this building and build a new one because we don't have a place for 400 students. The other thing is building a new building here robs the community of the opportunity to develop this property to benefit the downtown business area and also benefit the taxpayers and the citizens. The idea is that when we get to the new property, we would sell Manning and most likely Miller and South to pay for our new space, but the village or an interested party could develop this space and really help to support our downtown area, downtown businesses, and eventually not only the businesses but the taxpayers. So the other location that we're looking at is one that would be ideally centrally located and or a continuous campus with our other two buildings. Selling the district properties would pay for that. So we're estimated at about $7.5 million for the 3 properties we own, and that would offset the cost of the property to build the new building. Does that make sense? So we're once again trying to be fiscally responsible. It's going to last for 50 years. I'm going to rush it here because I want to get to your questions. We're going to do it one time. Got to do it right. Not extravagant, but quality. That's what this community deserves. So, we also, because people have asked, what about, are you going to come for another referendum in 5, 10, 20 years? We think the things that we will accomplish through this funding will take care of a new building in the junior high and the high school for at least a decade, if not 20 years. And education fund referendums, which are not very popular, we won't need because we're committed to balanced budgets. We have the right amount in reserves, and we will have taken care of the major reconstruction and construction needs. So, benefit and value for the community, selling Manning for downtown growth, increase in home values. There are a lot of communities that would love to be featured in Chicago Magazine and who are not getting our accolades. We want to build on that to protect our citizens, our students, and our taxpayers. We believe an increase in home values. There's a tremendous amount of research said there's a direct correlation between the quality of schools and home values in the community. Increase in people, we're already seeing that. The people, we are a desired location for many families. And to modernize the community, send a message. So, these are our promises. We will not seek additional funding, that we will continue in our commitment to provide excellence, and we continue with balanced budgets and fiscal responsibility. Those are commitments that we can make. We need the support of the referendum. So, academic excellence, we're at this crossroads. It's up for the citizens to decide. High quality versus a Band-Aid solution. That was the thinking, and not just our thinking, not just the board's thinking or admin's thinking. That is the thinking of our construction manager, our architects, and the majority, not 100%, but the majority of the citizens. Continued fiscal responsibility, and you know about our location efforts. Thank you for hearing me out. I'm so grateful. We will start with questions. Yes, please.
I just had a question about enrollment. What is the K-5 enrollment?
Approximately 650. Approximation. And there is a question. We're not making this move because of enrollment needs. Like, we don't need more space. It's the quality of space that we're educating the kids in. I want Marie Charlton to say a few words. She's a former school board president. She's here with us tonight, and I'd like her to.
Hi, I know many people in the room, but my name is Marie Charlton. We've lived here in Westmont for 35 years. I have 3 wonderful children. My oldest son is 39. He went here starting in 1st grade. And then my daughter's 28. She went all through the district. She was the last graduating class of 28. I am. Everyone will get a chance to speak here. I'm sure you have probably a couple things.
I promise, I'll stay here till midnight answering questions, that's a guarantee.
And then my younger son is 22 and also graduated through the district. When I was on the school board, we went for a referendum 3 times, tried 3 times, and I know there's a lot of discussion about that. One of the things, part of the reason I brought up the fact that I have children here is because they have graduated from this wonderful school district, and yet I'm still a homeowner, very, very invested in the community. When we tried to go for those referendums that did not pass, it was very sad. It was very sad that we didn't get that buy-in from the community. Again, it is so important. I have told Jack that I'm very committed to this because the district and our community needs these changes. Anyone who's been here for any amount of time, it's kind of a no-brainer. And I just have to say that I would support this entirely, and it's highly past the time to get these renovations done. We all have homes and that need work and everything, but at some point, you just have to invest in your property and your community, and I don't know what's better to invest in than the children in our district.
Questions, please.
If this was to go forward, what is the projection for when this new school would be built?
The projection is that we would enter a new building in the fall of 2027. That's the best projection we have. One of the reasons why I think the board decided to go in November is that it will allow us to enter into a new building in 2027. If we waited until April, it would push it back an additional year. So that was one of the considerations. And every year that we postpone this, there are things that we really can't keep kicking down the road. So I'm telling you, that is the best projection we have right now. We would use from November until the next 6 or 7 months to do a highly collaborative process of getting people input as to what the building would look like, especially the people who are going to be working in it every day, and community members, and full disclosure on what the architectural designs would be. Then there would be a bidding process, and so we're giving you the best estimate is most likely the fall of 27. Yes, please.
Would the improvements and renovations at the junior high and the high school be done before that?
We would start those as soon as possible. I'm going to have Anthony Ruelli, our very able, talented young business manager, answer a little bit more about that, but please.
Yeah, so the goal is that the existing buildings would be having work done during the summer months and breaks. So the idea is that the existing buildings will have work done when there's no kids in session or there's no school in session.
Oh, yeah, I had a question. Menunga right now is borrowing $52 million without raising taxes. Do you know how they're doing that, or is that an option? They're borrowing the $52 million from a loan?
We'll have to, I honestly don't know the answer, so I don't want to give one.
Yeah, they're starting next year, their project.
It's hard to believe that someone's giving them free money, but
What is
we
it?
will get all over that if that's an option.
So looking at their financials, their EAV is almost triple Westmont's. Their fund balance is in the 70 million. So, they have a large commercial base and a large EAV base, which brings in a significant amount of revenue than Westmont. So they have the healthy fund balance, which is generated by the property values in that district compared to Westmont. So with our low fund balance and low EAV, we're limited to the excess bonds that we can cash out. Or Menunga has that flexibility with the $74 billion budget and $1 billion of EAV, they have that flexibility. Equalized assessed valuation.
I don't even know how he knew that about Menunga. Okay, good for you, Anthony. We have a very talented business manager, I'm going to tell you that right now. Working side by side within the last year and a half, he's incredible. He is highly creative, ethically at the top, and a problem solver, and knowledgeable, and a workhorse. We're very lucky to have him. our district's fiscal responsibility is well put in Anthony's hands. He's incredible. Please.
I appreciate you can't tell us anything about the purchase of the property, but in the last meeting, you mentioned Oakwood. That's not centrally located.
Remember on that slide, yes. You know, this is part of the situation. We're really torn, because if anybody, I'm not new to this community, I've been here for a long time. But here's the thing, if we're gonna keep it, confidential to protect the district, and then we start saying this and this and this, it could lead to some problems. But I will say this, so remember that we're looking between, we're trying to come up with the best option between central location and a continuous campus. So it's a fair question, and I wish I could say more, and I won't say that again. But we are looking at options that will best serve the community. So if that's helpful. Yes, please.
I'm just wondering, what are the advantages of campus council?
If we're in close proximity, if all the campuses are in close proximity, we can do some transportation sharing. Currently, we're spread out a little bit in this district. If there's the opportunity, just as an example, as a superintendent, not that I'm complaining, but if I want to get to meetings across the district, there's the train tracks in the middle of our district, if it's not really always accessible, if we were all in one place, it would be easy. Some of the other advantages would be teachers could meet as an entire team district-wide by walking to each other's campuses, not having to get in cars. We could look at the scheduling a little bit better because we have that more continuous campus. One option is fifth graders who wanted to take accelerated classes could possibly walk to the junior high and have access to that, or that's just simply not a possibility with our current configuration. So logistics, transportation, travel, educational opportunities, there's a lot of advantages that the campuses were all in close proximity. It's not the only consideration, but it's a consideration. Yes, please.
Are there any disadvantages to putting all the kids together?
Well, we would still have 3 separate schools.
We're talking about transportation a lot, but traffic transportation. I think that's one of the next things we're considering all these things. So they're going to be closing on to each. So it's central or campus. We're not saying we're trying to keep both with essence. So you're going to get some close to both sides. So it's options for you.
We're also going to say, all the kids together, don't you want one bad event, something very bad happening to the district?
Again, what is in pros, we have that now with the junior high and the high school.
Right.
So it's possible, it's something to think about, and there's some close proximity. So yes, you can put that there as a con to that. We already have that. We're not trying to move our junior high away from the high school because of that reason. But we have to, if we're working with our village, I think if that was the case, that we had to consider that, we would have to take that community concern to our village, to our police, to our fire, get their input. I think we have to maximize whatever location it is and find the best way traffic or otherwise. It's so many things, and we have our buy-in from our village too. And I would want their input for any place in our city.
So if you're closing South School, then that would then be also early childhood and district offices in this new facility?
That is definitely a possibility we've considered, to do one pre-K through 5 on one campus and include the district administration.
I'm sorry, you say you're going to increase property values, but I don't see how that's going to happen as you get farther and farther away north of Ogden Avenue. If you're building north of Ogden Avenue, I would be against it. It's going to hurt our property values, particularly the people south of Jackson, especially if you're taking away the early childhood. That's the only school we have over there. There's no balance to the district there. There's no central location. And your question and answer session today that you put on the website doesn't talk anything about a continuous campus concept. So, it's kind of new information.
That's, being, telling you everything you know at this time.
Thank you.
Jack,
You mentioned you talked to the Realtor community at the chamber thing. Given the Realtor community has to deal with questions about taxes as well as home values. Did they have any reactions for you or any feedback for you at that moment?
The overall, and Anthony and I were there, the overall sentiment in the room was highly supportive from the chamber. I don't want to just speak for them, I'm not saying they're a monolith, but definitely the feedback we received today, and I could quote one of the leaders in that room, who's a business person in this community, is this is the turning point for the district. This is necessary, we need to do it to sustain the health of our community. So the real estate people in the room, and there was a considerable representation there, were highly supportive of this. Highly supportive. Not knowing they were highly supportive.
You said earlier that the new school would accommodate roughly 650 people. What about 5, 6, 7 years from now, enrollment goes by 20%? How do you deal with that? Or in the building or in the planning process, are you thinking, are there studies out there, kids that, what's available? Will that school be able to accommodate 900 students?
That's a great question. I hope everybody heard it. The quick answer is no. We cannot accommodate 900 students. And if the current projections is to show some slight enrollment in our students. I know you understand this, but we can't build a school for 800 or 900. That'd be fiscally irresponsible. A third of the building would be empty. So we're building to accommodate some increase.
We say 650, perhaps 700 students, but it wouldn't be fiscally sound to build a building for 800 or 900. So if there was that, the projections do not show that kind of influx because we're a little landlocked in Westmont. But some slight increases in enrollment, yes, but not to that extent. Does that make sense? And as we said, I don't think it'd be fiscally sound to build a building that's much larger unless we had the projections, and we don't. Please.
I was here last week. This is a new slide since last week, so definitely more information than last week. Although one of my questions would be, and I completely understand the negotiations, that if you don't have everything in place yet, and somebody says, hey, they have $74 million, guess what? The cost of our land just went up. I get it. That's a good possibility. But what that tells us as the community is this was probably rushed to get onto November's ballot without even having land in place. And a contingency could have been put in place with this, all parties involved, to say, obviously, there's a contingency that if the referendum doesn't pass, we don't have the money to buy this, and it's a dead deal. Why wasn't a land price locked in with a contract ahead of time, or is this just putting the cart before the horse?
I don't think it's putting the cart before the horse. I want to come to your original comment, which I do value. We take what our community says very seriously. And throughout this process, not only this round of community meetings, but the previous one, have significantly influenced our thinking. So we keep evolving. The more we meet with our community and listen, we try to adapt and address concerns that have been raised. So that's why you see slight alterations. It's because I'm going to tell you, one of the most powerful things about this experience has been connecting with community members, listening to them, taking their ideas whenever possible, and then making some adjustments. The idea in going in November in part was that would allow us, and it may not seem like a lot, but to people with the current situation we're living in, waiting till April would be an additional year before we could get to the buildings, which would be an additional year of possible wasteful costs when it could be paid for by the referendum. So,
Are you talking like the money that'll start fixing the high school roof and things?
yes, and everything that's there. There's not a PA system that works in this. We're trying to run evacuation drills, and we don't have a PA system that works. So we have options, but taking money out of our budget that is going to deplete opportunities and services for kids, as an example.
5 years from now, will you be able to accommodate 900 students?
Yes, and everything that's there. There's not a PA system that works in this. We're trying to run evacuation drills, and we don't have a PA system that works. So we have options, but taking money out of our budget that is going to deplete opportunities and services for kids as an example. I think it's a very reasonable thing to ask where this thing's gonna be. I do. But what I'm gonna say is, we are diligently, I hope that some of the quality that we have delivered in educational services will give us a little bit of room to negotiate. We will make a wise decision. And as soon as it's in the best interest of the district and the taxpayers, we will reveal everything. I cannot wait. But at this time, that's not prudent. So, we think there will be a good resolution, and we're trying to be as transparent as possible without giving away our leverage and our position. Yes?
At the last meeting, you said all these things cost 95 million, now it's 75 million. Whatever the 20 million.
This is part of the community outreach. Originally, we had 3 options. Now, we said, does the community want a $90 million option? Because that would be our preference. Or a $75 million option, or a $55 million option. We got pretty clear feedback that while there was support for a $90 million option, that was not the consensus thinking. So we lowered the number, and that's what we put on the ballot. The $55 million would not get us the things that I would argue are the best investment for the taxpayers. You cannot address the absolutely essential upgrades and build a new building for the $55 million option. And our citizens did say, not everybody, but the consensus was, don't put tens of millions of dollars into these older buildings, build a new building. So we were trying to reflect the consensus of the community. Not the unanimous thinking, because it doesn't exist, but the consensus of the community is, don't go for the high amount, build a new building. That's how we reached that number.
But in your proposal today, the 95 million still have, it's still in there. Isn't it? No, not the 95 million, but the projects that you're going to complete with the 95 million, now you're going to complete it with 75 million. How are you going to complete it? No, that's not. Aren't you still doing high school?
This is the,
You're not preparing the high school and junior high, getting science classes?
there are things that we would have preferred doing, and here is one of the things we learned. We've had a pool in this district for 50 years. Would that be nice to have? Yes. The community was pretty clear. We don't want to fund the pool at the cost of many millions of dollars. So that is one of the places that we are not going to address, if that makes sense. And that is a direct result of listening to our community, because in some ways, you know, there are kids who love that class, and we get rental income from that pool. It's unbelievable. I just want to share this. Talk about fiscal responsibility. We have an agency, and Anthony could give more details, that has invested, an outside group has put how many tens of thousands of dollars into our pool?
The Board of Education just approved a couple donations, one up to $40,000 for a brand new boiler system that would be maintained through the Hinsdale Swim Club. The second donation was for $20,000 for the filter for the high school pool. So there's a significant value for the Westmont High School pool. The district cannot fund those costs. So we are fortunate enough to have a swim club that is providing the donations to have the pool operating.
So the Hinsdale Swim Club sees such value in maintaining our pool, and they pay us rent every month too.
They pay us roughly $5,000 per month.
And those recent donations are not in total, there's been previous donations also, correct?
No, those are the significant ones. We worked out where the revenue would come in, we would offset what they spent. Just because these two big purchases are significant, and to avoid bid process and all that, you know, it would be easier and faster have that donation aspect than, you know, reducing the rental monthly fee.
The bottom line is the Hinsdale Swim Club is paying for our pool to be maintained and kept open, so our kids in physical education use that facility. So part of the way we reduce the number is by cutting the pool out. We will not, this plan will not address the pool, and we will not be in the long run. At this time, the decision of the community, I think, best reflection is we will not maintain the pool going forward in time.
I guess where else did you cuts made.
That cost alone was about $8 to $10 million. Those were the estimates we had. We had to put off, there are other needs in this district that we had to tighten the belt on. And the other thing is, once again, like we said, on a continuum, we're not building the cheapest school, but we're not building the most elaborate school either. So some of the cost reductions could be seen there.
A lot of the additional costs for that $90 million also included cosmetics. So paints, updating the carpets, all that, where those are low on the priority list compared to a leaking roof, HVAC, boiler issues.
You mentioned senior tax exemption? What?
Anthony? So here are the eligibility criteria for the senior citizen exemption. And ultimately, that would reduce your equalized assessed value of your home by $8,000. So if we're looking at, for the referendum, if you meet this criteria and you have the senior exemption on your tax bill given by the county, it would be on average around $57 a year savings compared to an individual that does not qualify.
Yeah, but that depends on their income. A lot of seniors do not qualify. I know someone who missed it by $2. So I just qualified.
Yeah, and again, the district does not determine this. This is from the county level. There's more information on the county website, which we can post on our district website to give more information.
I just have a question. So the referendum, like with your tax calculator, that dollar amount, that's for 25 years. Is that gonna be the same dollar amount, or does that go up annually? And then also, if that's the
Let's
case.
take one question at a time. So one of the things we've tried to do for transparency is to put the tax calculator on our site so anybody can plug it in and see the impact. We're not trying to hide that. It's a tool that citizens can use. So you're asking if the rate goes up over 25 years or what?
Well, yeah, because I know it's a 25-year referendum, right?
No, it's a 30-year bond, and that increase for the referendum does not change. It's a fixed rate. So it's a fixed rate for 30 years.
Okay.
Do you know what that rate is?
It depends on your house value. So it's on your fair market value.
So the tax rate will go up,
Correct.
but individually for people who own more expensive houses, would
Yeah.
higher tax?
Could you just repeat the question for everybody?
So if individuals have a higher fair market value of your home compared to a low, your burden on the referendum tax increase is higher than individuals with low house value. Correct.
The multiplier?
Correct. The multiplier stays the same, it's just the house value goes up. It's a fixed multiplier for 30 years.
Would be that, I know like when I look at my property tax, that percentage, and it always seems to go up, taxes obviously never go down. Will you try to like accommodate not raising that every year, that rate?
So by law, districts have to levy a tax extension. So if we do not levy the max and we under levy, we lose millions and millions of dollars compounded each year. So it's best practice that all districts levy up to the max. We are a capped tax district in DuPage County, so we are capped at 5% or CPI, which is the lesser percentage. So we are a capped district. So it is governed by what the district taxes the community and also what is the CPI growth around in the county. So again, we are a capped district and we have to levy the max in order to capture all proceeds.
The other thing we're saying is, if the referendum passes, we will not have to dip into our annual budget, and we will be fiscally responsible, because there is also referendums that sometimes school districts ask from the community to increase the tax rate. We are not, that is one thing we're avoiding and not, in our estimation, not having to do. We can live within our means and provide high quality, but that becomes jeopardized if we have to take what's meant to provide for the annual budget and start applying it to all these other expenditures. Any other comments? Yes, please.
If I understand right, you said South, Manning, and Miller, you would have to You don't have large enough campus for that. But you haven't said that when you want to do the combined schools up there in Oakwood. You suddenly you must have the property, and I believe you do own the property next to the junior high, and is that the property you might be building on?
And the other, trust me, we did explore that. It's not large enough to build a campus on. We did explore that. It's not large
So
enough.
don't have eminent domain up there?
We are trying to do everything we can to avoid eminent domain. As this is, in the end, that is our current strategy, is to not employ that.
I just want to say it, everyone, and I didn't know, a playground next to the actual park is not too long, that park.
Well, they don't have to do eminent domain, they did get the park district, if they want to sell that property, because they have time.
You have to talk to the park.
I have one other tax question next year. One of your paperwork, the tax calculator said my tax increase is gonna be, over 10%, okay? Now, there's also information on there that says in DuPage County, it only allows a 5% increase per year. Could you please, verify that for me right now, and could you post the link to where it says it in the DuPage County tax code? Because that would be a major savings for me, and a lot of people probably in this room, if that's true.
So the first year is a significant impact because you're voting for a referendum, you're voting an additional tax rate increase. As years progress, that is a flat rate. So then going forward, you're only capped at 5%. So the first year, you're capped at adding that multiplier of the additional tax rate. So that's why you see the first year more than 5%, and then going forward, it will be capped at 5%. But we can definitely look into adding more information and more language on the website.
I guess I had a question just more so around, I guess it's location related. I was just taking some notes on some things that people asked that made me think some things. So and Anthony, maybe you know this question, is if it's for the continuous option, I guess that you had up there on the other slide, you mentioned transportation being a benefit. Is transportation of the students a big expense to the district? Like, is there savings that can happen there by having it more continuous?
Good question, yes. So if we have a continuous campus, that would decrease the number of routes and buses. So that would obviously have a decreased cost of transportation, which is significantly impacting the budget.
Got it, okay. Yeah, and I mean, for me personally, centrally located, continuous campus, from 55th to Ogden is a 1.5-mile stretch, so I don't really have a concern. I have 3 kids. I go from 55th in South Wilmette to 63rd in the morning, then to Miller, then to South for my morning drop off, and it's completely fine. So I live that every day. Like I said, regardless of location, to me personally, it's a 1.5-mile stretch, so it's not like we're trekking a super long distance. And yeah, I guess for me, working in sales myself, I totally get the position you're in on what you can say. I think that you probably can't get somebody to hold a deal for 4 to 5 months before, on a contingency. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yep.
I can respect a situation where somebody has the flexibility to add an extra 1.5 miles and do the extra stops on the trips and everything. I understand that. Not everybody has that. I keep coming here every week. I'm going, am I a yes, am I a no, am I a maybe? I think everybody's always a maybe. And everybody's got different reasons why they're going to be a yes and why they're going to be a no. And looking at this, some people, it's financial. It's purely financial. Single parent, whether they're male, female, doesn't matter. And busing, yes, there's buses, but let's take the single parent who has a kindergartner or a first grader. They have to put on a bus over near South Wilmette and 55th, and they have to get to work on time. They can't leave that child on the corner and pray to God nothing happens to them. How many times in the last 3 years, especially since COVID, have people said there's no bus? I used to get the text every morning, no bus. Who's gonna go around and watch every bus stop for the safety of these kids? Or then that in order to do it, that single parent has to drive all the way north of Ogden, and they work south, and they can't even get to work on time. COVID has changed the world, and yes, a lot of people work from home, but not everybody. Doesn't affect me at all. I mean, looking at that sense of it though, everybody has different reasons. So I guess with that, Jack, my question would be this. Something you knew throughout was the 15th, you could hopefully give us more answers. We're 41 days from final vote. Will you be able to give us an actual location before November 5th? Because I would say, if you can't give me that, I can't give you a yes. And that's me personally. It's not about the tax dollars. It's about, I feel that part of my home value is based on where an elementary school is, not a junior high or a high school.
Yes, it is.
That's,
It's right about now. Yes. So, if you go from Chicago, I don't want to debate, but if you go from Chicago out to Yorkville, there is a point where small town living still exists. Once you get past Naperville, all those grade schools are built inside communities where they walk to their schools. They do.
we think that, so we're saying by that time, we will
My main
divulge.
question is, would you have would you be able to disclose an actual location before the deadline for voting?
The honest answer is, we don't know. I hope we can, and if we can, we absolutely will. That's the best answer I can get. That's the most honest answer to protect the district. I think we will know more by then. And I think we can narrow down the focus too.
Lindsay, I'll come back to you.
I just have 2 seconds, I promise.
Of course.
The fact of the matter is I was listening to what you said, this gentleman down here, about that if it's going farther north, you're out. The fact of the matter is I live on the north side of town. If it goes south, I might be out.
I don't want
And
it
I'm
to be
not
south.
saying it should be south, it should be north. I'm not, that's not the point to me. To me, because like we said, it's tiny, we're in a tiny town, it's not that big of a difference. The farthest south part of this town and the farthest north part of this town are not that discrepant. My point is, for every person in your shoes who says you don't want it to go that far north or north of Ogden, there's gonna be another person who says the opposite.
Well, I don't want it to be north of Ogden, and I certainly don't want it to be south of the tracks either. It has to be centrally located so that you have the balance of the facilities of District 201. That's what you need.
Then there's nothing south.
And, well, if at least it's close, if it was in the central district, if it was in the central part of Westmont, then it would be a fair location for all Westmont. But I'm gonna live south of the tracks. I'm not gonna have any school facilities near me at all. If we put it in the northeast corner of Westmont, I'm gonna be paying the same property tax increase. My property tax, my value is gonna go down. And I've already lived through it. I've already lived through it once. Okay, I've already lived through it once.
Well, I was just gonna say both parents answered the questions about the, about busing, but just about the fairness of it all, because I, as principal, deal with all of the questions and concerns when it comes to busing and everything in between. We have those issues now, whether you're north or south of the tracks, and we've come up with great solutions, and are working with the park district to have before and after school, whether people can take advantage of it, or even just reaching out to the community to sometimes just find opportunities if they don't or cannot afford to even have that, but it's a super reasonable rate to even do that option. So as a community, we're constantly working together, but those problems exist regardless. And whether you're north or south, east or west, there's always someone who has an issue that we have to resolve together, so.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, not everybody's gonna be happy, I'm good. Whether it's on the north side, south side, centrally located, someone won't be happy. You will not make everyone happy with whatever decision comes with the location. That's just a fact. If it ended up on the south side, I wouldn't necessarily like it, to be honest with you, but I'd vote for it. You know why? Because we need it. Because it's an investment in our community. I've explained to Jack my thoughts on South, and that area there being opened up to all the traffic and everything like that. I'm really not in favor of it, but I would still vote for it because it doesn't change any of the facts that we need to do this. It doesn't change the condition of the schools or anything like that. Absolutely, we are at the point that this is a necessity.
Still has to be voted on.
Absolutely.
Okay.
On page 2 of the handout on the suburban thing that you guys put out and handed out, did anybody else notice besides me, of the towns listed, the 5-year increase in property values in Westmont was 22%. Everywhere else was 40 plus. Well, I'm gonna make this argument, and at this point, I'm typically a very, sort of numbers-driven guy. I'm gonna make effectively just a very emotional argument. First off, values are subject to conjecture. They just are, right? Up, down, whatever. I can see that our values have not kept pace. That much I can see. And I would argue that it's not because we don't have the best schools. I would argue we have the best schools. Certainly in the last 5 years, I think the growth in our academic performance has spoken for itself. So if it's not that, then might it be that when young families and young couples drive through western and suburban Chicago, and they start to look at the buildings that they're going to send their young children to, they drive by us, and then they go drive by Downers, and then they go drive by Oswego or Lyle or wherever, right? And they see shiny new buildings for their small kids. And so I would argue, right, that's a component. I'm not going to argue that that's all of it, right? Because real estate values has so much incorporated into it. But I can't believe that that's not a component. That families, that young couples don't look at these buildings and look elsewhere. And with that said, I mean, the other thing I will say personally is, we have a grandchild, and there's a reasonable chance that he's going to go to Westmont schools. If I have a choice about what kind of building to send him to, I'm going to send him to the right building.
So, I just have one other thought to share, is that, so, I'm not in the classroom anymore, but I have been a classroom educator for the last 25 years, and I have personally walked into a building for a job interview and said, well, I don't want to work here every day. And I mean this with the most respect possible. I think I would say that about this building. And I send my kids here every single day. And I love this building. I love what this building provides for my children. But if we want to attract the best staff, the best educators, the best professionals, that is definitely a piece. I can tell you for a personal fact, I won't name names unless you want to come to me afterwards. I will tell you where I wouldn't work. I walked out of there and said, I have 2 interviews today. I do not want to work in this place, whether they offer it to me or not. And they did, and I said no. It's fact. I personally have that experience.
We haven't heard.
Do you have a hard time hiring teachers here in this district?
The truth of the matter is, we don't.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'll tell you what, like I said, I'll say this though, I need to say this. This is not in the top 25% of facilities that you educate kids in. This is not in the top half. This is not in the top 3/4. I don't know what else to say, but I'm gonna say it. I have been in education for 40 years, traveled the country. These buildings, not because they haven't been maintained, but compare them to Elmhurst and Downers and Hinsdale and Lyle and all the communities that have passed referendum. This is not the kind of building that reflects the quality of our community, the quality of education system and district that we provide. It's an embarrassment. And it's even people who have said that they're questioning whether they can afford this or whether they want to know the exact location before they make a commitment. Even some of those individuals will admit that these buildings are not quality. They're an embarrassment. The high school, I love, and it will do. It's not, I walk into high schools all over the country, and we're not in the same league as most of them. But it will do. It's good enough for us. And the junior high, I have questions about, but we can get by. The point is, we're not looking for the luxury brand. We are looking for some quality for our district. So no, but I think a lot of that recruitment has to do with the culture we've built and our achievement rates, and people want to be a part of that. Imagine if we had quality buildings to go with that. Yes, please.
I just want to make a comment, question. Speaking on behalf of my 5th grader, she has a real emotional connection to the school. She's gone here since kindergarten, before Miller and Manning were split. And for her, it's actually kind of sad. And, you know, the way she looks at it is that when the high school kids, the seniors, when they graduate, they come back here just to see their elementary school. When she gets to the high school, she won't be able to come here because it won't likely exist. And that's really hard for her to take in. Most of us could probably go back to our schools because they still exist, but just a different perspective of how the kids kind of look at this and how it impacts them. I agree with you, the life of these schools has reached its maximum and a change needs to occur, but I just wanted to make that comment on her behalf.
Yes, thank you. And that is certainly one of the, you can't get it all, right? There is no perfect solution, or it would be sitting in front of us. There are always pros and cons to every decision we make. So I appreciate that perspective. And there's sacrifice involved when you make a decision, no matter how good the decision is. And that's what we're trying to navigate, all the different components to it. So I do respect that perspective. And some of the older kids who I know and love and know well enough that they tell me what they're thinking, have expressed something like that too. So it's not foreign. So I get the point. It's a matter of no decision's perfect, or we would all be 100% consensus. Pros and cons, that's a consideration. But the truth of it is, there's ADA compliance issues that are not addressed here. There's HVAC issues. We have a bunch of Manning teachers. I wish they would speak up and say something. They took the time to be here tonight. I'd like them to say something about their experience. So there are all kinds of.
Most of you don't know me. My name is Joe Kwiatkowski. This is my 10th year teaching. This is my second year at Manning. I'll be honest, I didn't have to come to Manning. I had a great job. I was living in Naperville. Really good school district, as most of you guys know. And a friend reached out to me and asked me to interview here. And I'll be honest, I was a little hesitant about it, but I met with Jack, I met with Lindsay, I met with the staff, and I knew this place was for me. I mean, I don't think you guys realize just how good of a school district you guys are in. We have great class sizes, we have a great community, we have great support. I've just been incredibly blessed to be here. And Jack asked me, he said, you know, you're gonna be part of something special if you come here. And, you know, I really believe him when he said that. And I think we've done some great things here, but this is the next big investment. I think we have to trust our school district that we're making the right decision. I think all of you guys believe we've done some great things here, but I think we're asking you guys for this next step. And I sincerely do believe our kids will benefit from this in the long run. You look at the Napervilles, you look at the Downers Groves, you look at the Hinsdales, all of them have that one commonality, and it's schools. And I think if we get that and we're all on board, great things are gonna happen here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve Riedel. My wife and I have lived in Westmont for nearly 30 years. And when our kids were young and we were trying to figure out what school to send them to, we looked at the Westmont schools, and the Westmont schools at that time, and this is 25 years ago, were very mediocre. And we chose to send our kids to private schools as a result of that. Over the last 25 years, we've watched with, I would say, a growing sense of pride as the Westmont schools have gotten better and better and better in terms of quality. But at the same time, over that period of time, there has not been a single referendum that has passed in the last 30 years to benefit the Westmont schools and the facilities. And so the schools are succeeding despite the lack of investment. And if we are willing to make an investment in the schools, I think that they will be that much better. And when we had to make our difficult decision about whether we were gonna spend a lot more money to go public school or a lot less and go to private school, to go to private school versus a lot less to go to public school, it was a bit heart-wrenching because we absolutely want to support the community. But I think that we can do better. And when I hear people say, I can't support it if it's going to be way north because I live south, or I can't support it if it's way south because I live north, I think we're missing the point. And the point is that the good school system and the excellent school system benefits the entire community. We will all benefit from having a better school system. And we already have benefit and want to continue to do so. So I'm really hoping that we pull together as the Westmont community, as the village, and support this referendum.
Following up on the words of that very smart gentleman over there, I guess the question is, if not now, when?
That is what we're kind of facing. I think we postponed this, and there have been referendum attempts, and we're really at that crossroads, like I said. So we're so grateful, and we don't, it's not easy to ask people for money. We don't, but we think it's a good investment for our community. So, and we're gonna keep putting money into buildings that I think have seen their useful life. And at the end of it, renovating them would be less expensive, but I don't, the majority of the community said that's not the right option. Like I said, I wasn't kidding. Any other comments or questions?
I'll make one comment.
Sure.
That October 15th meeting?
Yes.
I never did the high school, so you can hold more people. I think they're gonna be there.
Okay, yeah, we're thinking the same way. I love that. One of my favorite places in this world besides my home. My second favorite place in this world is that high school auditorium. I love that place because we brought our whole team together, and that is a place where, you know, we really rallied the kids and our amazing teaching staff to do amazing things. I appreciate what the gentleman said. We are going to be one of the premier districts in this country. We are on our way because of our community and our taxpayer support and our parents and our board and our students and our admin and our teachers. We are on our way to that greatness. It's right there, but we need the support to make it happen. And I love this place with my heart and soul. Like I said, I'm not new here. And if you know me, you could ask any kid who went through that school. I'm not saying every single one of them love me, but I think they know I love them. They know that I care about them deeply, and all I want is for this community to continue to thrive, because there's a real love for the people who live here. And I think it will be great for us. So, we'll stick around. Thank you for attending.